as we get closer and closer to the draft, less than a week away now. We bring to you the Dallas Cowboys Executive Vice President, Stephen Jones. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Well, we want to know, first and foremost, how hyped are you about the Mavericks right now?
Well, it's just outstanding, the job they're doing, and seeing them get it done without their best player is even more impressive. So hats off.
Now, as we move into the NFL draft, I was reading a really interesting article the other day about how much more important mental health and discussions about mental health have become when talking about draft prospects. Can you tell us anything about how you're supposed to scout that or analyze it and what you do with that information?
I think, especially if it's an issue, then we certainly have, we have infrastructure here with the Cowboys that addresses that. We have people who are available for our players, and then they also evaluate whether it's free agents or potential draft prospects that do the same thing and sit. If we have a real interest in a player and we understand, the player may have some challenges in that area, then we have our appropriate people meet with those folks. It would be no different than meeting with Jim Maurer on your physical health, no different than meeting with our coaches on the actual on-the-field stuff. That's just part of the overall evaluation.
Stephen, I did ask you last week about moving up in the first round, and I totally understood the, look, if it's that kind of guy, it's going to cost, and we're going to have to, spend maybe two guys to go get that one guy, so he better be that good. I am kind of curious about the second round of the draft and moving up there. Y'all have done it before, and I'm kind of interested in the mechanics of draft day one is over. What are y'all discussing overnight to try and say, can we make this move and should we make this move?
Yeah, we did it with DeMarcus Lawrence, and it turned out to be a great move for us. Several years ago, we took a third-round pick, and I think that's correct, and moved up. I mean, usually you can, in general, think, well, it's going to take, unless you're going way up the line, going from the bottom of the second to the top, then you might be talking, unfortunately, as much as the next year's one. But a lot of times, if you're moving up 5, 6, 7 spots, you're usually giving up a third-round pick, which can really be a good football player for you. So you've got to really, have the feeling that this player is going to make a big difference for you, and you are willing to give up. And, we have that exercise where we look and say, here's some guys that we may be giving up in order to use that pick to push our two up the way to get the player that we're after.
You think you'd be more interested in moving up in a later round, like maybe the second round, than you would the first this year?
There's no preference.
Okay.
At the end of the day, it's all about value. It's all about seeing the player that we happen to like at that time. It's all about when you're on the clock. If there's 2 or 3 guys you're really happy with, that you're saying, hey, I can move down 4 or 5 spots and take that risk and be just as happy and pick up another pick, then, you decide to make that move. So just like we did last year when the 2 corners went, we moved down and felt comfortable that we could pick up a great pick and end up with Micah. So, it worked out for us, worked out in a good way. And, it's really, unless you're right there in the top, 5 picks, it's really hard most of the time to be doing business before you know what's there and what's been taken.
Is there any part of you or the organization that is disappointed that maybe there's not more elite quarterbacks in this draft? Because I feel like in years past, since y'all aren't looking for a quarterback, maybe teams trying to get quarterbacks take players that you wouldn't have even considered. Does that hurt at all this year with people maybe not being as high on these quarterbacks?
Well, you just never know. I mean, sometimes, people, because they do need a quarterback, they'll push those quarterbacks up there. Up at the top, or not at the very top, but higher than you would think they would go. I mean, that is the one position where you get, players, clubs, because the quarterback position is so important that they push those quarterbacks up. But, obviously, any of these players that, we're not necessarily thinking, hey, we need to have that for this year. It's nice to, push some players that we may be looking at down if they get picked ahead of us.
You talked a lot about, I mean, obviously the thought is that you are in charge or as big part of the organization in terms of running the salary cap and everything like that. You told us the other day about like projections of the salary cap and everything. How far, I don't know what you can tell us. I would love to know insight into your process of like, how do you guys project the salary cap going forward? Even if the NFL hasn't told you anything, do you have like, we've got it planned 5 years out? Like, how do y'all come up with that?
We're usually about 3 years out, and usually you've got a pretty good feel, plus or minus, barring some unforeseen situation like the pandemic, kind of how that's gonna, how that should play out, and we play that into, if you sign a guy to a 4 or 5 year contract, you get comfort in the fact that hey, this should be how the salary cap grows, and I think we've got a good feel for that, at this point now that. The league has gone in there and made most of the adjustments, have been put in place that needed to be put in place. Certain pots, benefits and things like that for players have all been put back in place, and feel good that you're going to have a smooth curve going forward in terms of what that cap should look like. But usually, we're looking at iterations that would involve this year and the next 2 years.
Okay, you might have just kind of answered the bulk of my next question, but I was curious, if you can tell us, is there any money that still has to be, while all the programs are back in place, is there any money that still has to be paid back that might decelerate the raise of the cap over the next couple of years?
Well, what you're trying to do is get the buckets back where they need to be for the, some of the benefits and some of the things that aren't quote unquote, hard dollars in the salary cap. And there's still a little work to be done there over the next year or so, but it's certainly, really starting to shrink to the point where you get a good feel that you can have a smooth curve in what you think the growth in the cap's going to be over the next, over the next 2 or 3 years.
Stephen, I think if you're reading between the lines, Kevin is getting ready to pitch you a 5-year plan for the future, and he just wants to throw his hat in the ring and kind of get it out there at some point. So maybe he'll text you and give you all that information later. Right?
Absolutely. I look forward to seeing the plan.
Okay. It's going to be a good one, I promise.
Great.
All right. So I am kind of curious because we've kind of been hearing some whispers about some things, and I want to see your thoughts on this. Are you guys interested in making any free agent moves, like maybe on the offensive line before the draft, or do you think you're more likely to like reassess the market after you've drafted?
Right now you kind of know what's out there, and kind of where people are. There's some players out there that are kind of gonna wait it out and see, and that happens. And we're certainly as I said, we're certainly open to business in terms of what we're going to do in free agency. We think there's still some work to be done there. I think you do see some natural ability come after the draft. Teams draft some guys, and then they start to get the feeling, well, maybe we can do without this guy. He's got a big cap. We'll cut him loose and in the free market. And so every year there's opportunity that comes up, if you will, after the draft, because people draft some good young players high, and they decide to take some cap relief in other areas. So there's always seems to be opportunity there, and we'll just see how it goes.
Is there any possibility that somebody else is trying to call you right now?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
That might be
because it sounded like there was a beep, and so we appreciated you sticking with us and declining that other phone call.
It all depends on who it would have been. I can assure you that.
Yeah, we're right in the top 3, maybe 4 of the list of people that he's not going to hang up on right now. I appreciate that. All right, so the running back position. I know we have Zeke, Tony Pollard's in his place right now, and we all kind of want to see how Kellen uses that position. But when you're looking in the draft, there are some guys that could be good future starters or future role players. I'm kind of curious, what is it? Do you need more of a potential starter, or do you need more of a project right now with the way this roster is structured?
Well, I think our running back situation is a position of strength for us right now. When you look at Zeke, you look at Pollard, you look at Rico. We were just in with the coaches talking about that, and that's 3 really strong running backs. And so, it's certainly not a position of need right now, but at the same time, we also know Tony Bollard's going to be a free agent, and things change quickly. So that's why you don't ever rule out any position, especially if a player falls in there that you think has great value. So I don't think you're ever just you're never going to relegate yourself to a certain position of, hey, we're not going to take this, or we're looking for a 3, not a 1 or a 2. You have to be open-minded as you move forward in the draft, look for where the value is and make decisions based on that.
Stephen, I know you talked about CeeDee Lamb a few days ago with us, but I look at Cooper Kupp, 145 catches, 1,947 yards, 16 touchdowns. I mean, the best receiver in the league last year. I have hopes of CeeDee Lamb being the best receiver in the league in 2022. I know that Dak has multiple weapons to throw to. Is there any type of offense or possibility that CeeDee Lamb can be as good as Cooper Kupp was in 2021?
Well, I think the sky's the limit on CeeDee Lamb. I just think it's a function of getting opportunities, and obviously without having Amari here and Sed here, he should get more opportunities than he's ever had. We got Gallup, who's going to be coming on strong, I think, but he could, his availability for the first game or two could be a question mark. And obviously we're going to be looking, to add there in terms of what we're doing from a receiver standpoint. But, I would not bet against CD on any numbers in terms of what he could achieve. I know Dak has great confidence in what he's doing, and he could certainly be a guy that you could look up and all of a sudden he's having, a huge year. Up about where he's going. He's in great shape. He's going about his business in a very, very much a working off season, doing everything he can to prepare himself to have a great year.
Now, when you talk about Dak having great respect and trust in the wide receivers, do you get the sense, because I imagine that's the only way this thing is going to work, but do you get the sense that all the receivers, all your pass catchers also have that same kind of appreciation and belief in Dak?
Oh, absolutely. There's one thing you don't have to worry about on this team, and it's not just the receiving core. It's it's just a consensus of who the leader of this football team, who leads it. Everybody just has to have extreme confidence, and not just the players on the field. It's the coaching staff, it's the personnel staff, it's ownership. There's not anybody in this building who doesn't have the utmost confidence in what Dak Prescott is, what he stands for, and how he leads his team.
Stephen Jones here with us on the KNC Masterpiece on 105.3 The Fan. Dan Quinn was special last year. I think he gained a lot of trust with the fan base, a lot of trust with you guys. I'm kind of curious when, he's talking about what he wants to do with this defense. Is he pretty close to what he wants, or are there still is he like, we have a lot of work to build. We need to make some more additions to this defense to get it there.
Well, we have a lot of the pieces that we do feel really good about, but you can always improve. And I think Dan thinks we're going to be a better defense this year than we were last year. So fired up about that. But it is great when you're discussing, these players, this personnel in the upcoming draft, and where some of these men at different positions could make us even a better defense if we were to get a player like this or a player like that. It certainly fires me up, and I do think when we look up here that we're going to have improved ourselves, and even if we stayed status quo, I think Dan believes we're going to have a better defense. But I feel good that we're going to improve where we are, and that should make us even better.
Stephen, when a certain receiver says that he wants to be traded from a certain team on the West Coast, do you say we need to pick up the phone and make a phone call and just check in on this guy because that dude's really good, and we kind of lost in the playoffs to that team, so let's go ahead and steal that guy from him?
Well, we're always looking to get better, and obviously keep your eye on anything and everything that's going on, and certainly things have to fit in and work, but we're always, looking at where we are from a personnel standpoint and where we can get better.
Now, this question is a little different, maybe a little bit more serious, but I would love anything you can tell us about this because I've always been fascinated by this. So it's been a really busy offseason. We've talked about that. There was just a lawsuit that got dropped against Jerry from somebody claiming to be one of his daughters. Is there any part of you, because none of this would be important to anybody if you weren't in the public eye, is there ever a part of you that regrets like being in this business or being in the public eye or your family being in the public eye?
No, we absolutely, feel so fortunate to be involved with the Cowboys. No matter what you're involved in life, there's always going to be a lot of good aspects if you love it, and then there's going to be some things that can be challenges. So we certainly embrace and love what we do with the Cowboys, and we also understand, there's going to be times when there's challenges. I mean, obviously, no different than last year. We had, it was certainly disappointing that we didn't make it, that we didn't have success in the playoffs, and, that eats at you. But at the same time, you wouldn't trade anything for it to be in that competitive arena, competing day in and day out and trying to be the best. So like I said, we embrace all the challenges that come with being a part of the Dallas Cowboys, and certainly know that, there's always going to be some tough things that come with it. There's going to be criticism that comes with it, but we feel like we have a very strong foundation organizationally. We feel like our family has a strong foundation, and, we just feel good about our future and where we're headed.
Well, Stephen, if there are ever any agents calling during our interview, you can always patch them in, and then we can listen in on the conversation. Just let them know. Yeah, just let them know that, hey, I'm on the line with radio, so this is going live right now. All right.
Sounds good, guys.
All right. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you very much.